I remember the call from one of the social workers from our agency like it was yesterday. Think hard enough, I can see the entire thing play out in my mind. I don't know that it's a moment in my life that I will ever forget. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome. I'm Lorianne. This is my little space on the YouTubes where I talk about all of the things really. In this video, I'm going to talk about something that's been pretty highly requested over the last several years, honestly. And it's a video that I've tried to make time and time again. And I don't know, I always film it and then I feel like I like it and then I go to edit it and I don't love it. So, I mean, here we are again for probably like the 15th time attempting this. But it's been requested that I talk about how to move forward after experiencing a disrupted placement on your adoption journey. So if this is the first video you're seeing of mine, I figure I should probably give you a little bit of background about my experience in this. If you've been around, then you know. My husband and I are parents by way of domestic infant adoption 2 times over actually. We started our first adoption journey in 2019 and we experienced a failed match first in October of 2019. And then in December of 2019, we experienced a disrupted placement with twins. We documented our entire adoption journey here on this channel, so you can go back and watch those videos if you're interested in seeing that play out, like when it actually happened. In our disrupted placement experience, we actually got the call. We had to leave work early. It was on I want to say it was on a Tuesday. And we drove out of state because that's where expectant mom was. And we got to labor with her. We were in the room with her while she was going through all of that. And then because it was twins, they delivered in the OR and I got to be present. She asked me if I would be in the delivery room with her. And when they were born, I got to cut umbilical cords. And I have to say, to this day and probably forever in my life, that was one of the greatest experiences of my life. And I am forever grateful that I was able to be a part of it regardless of how it all played out afterwards. It was just really, really special. We were then given a room in the hospital and we were able to stay there, and we spent the next couple of days bonding with the twins, bonding with their mother. It was a really exciting and special time. Looking back on the situation now, because we're like 3 years in retrospect, but like, there were a lot of red flags that happened while we were in that hospital all together that my husband and I just didn't really pick up on. Warnings that things were kind of changing because we were just so like blinded by the moment, and we had just had so much love in our hearts for the children and for their mother, and also we were just like really busy, right? It's twins, so there was never a dull moment. There was always somebody that needed something. The hospital staff was in and out all the time, so it was just kind of like constantly being stimulated by something, and it just was a lot harder to kind of read the signs. And because we were out of state, the social workers from our agency couldn't be there to be a part of it. I really feel like had they been able to be there and provide counsel and just kind of witness everything that was going on, they probably would have been able to pick up on things and given us like a heads up that there might have been some things about to change so that we weren't caught so off guard. Temporary custody was signed over to us, but we were out of state, so we couldn't leave, so we had to go to an extended stay while we waited for like the ICPC stuff. And then ultimately their mother decided that she was going to parent. I remember the call from one of the social workers from our agency like it was yesterday. I remember, if I think hard enough, I can see the entire thing play out in my mind. I don't know that it's a moment in my life that I will ever forget because it was that big of a deal at the time. And it was absolutely devastating. There were a lot of things that happened after that and things that we found out that were honestly really upsetting and even more heartbreaking and devastating to us. And I'm not gonna get into any of that because it's just not important to what we're talking about today, which is just how to kind of move forward and heal from it. But it was a lot in the moment, and we were really devastated. And thank God our families had come down. They weren't initially going to, but then they decided to come down, and thank God they were, because I was useless after I got that call. I just kind of sat there and cried, and our families packed up our bags and loaded up the cars and kind of made the arrangements with the hotel to cut our stay short. And it was a lot, and I'm so grateful that they were there to be our family in that moment and to take up for us, because we were just shattered. So all of that to say, if you are currently experiencing a disrupted placement, if you've recently gone through one, I understand what you're going through. I understand how you feel. It feels a little crazy because one day you feel like this and then the next you feel a different way, and it's kind of like a roller coaster. You're up and you're down. It can be really hard to move forward because you could be so scared of having to go through that again. I know there are so many families that experience it more than once. I'm grateful at this point that we've only experienced it once. And I know that there are families that experience it back to back. I know that it happens. And honestly, there's no way to guarantee that it won't happen to you again. When you're in the process of adopting, it's really just like an act of faith. Like, you're just going through the motions, hoping that you will meet the child that's meant for your family. There's no way to know that you won't experience a failed match or disrupted placement and multiple times. There's just no way to know. Since our adoption journey and sharing the highs and lows on this YouTube channel, I've had so many people, families reach out to me who are in the process of adopting. Many of you have experienced failed matches, disrupted placements, and I get a lot of people reaching out. Just sometimes they want advice, sometimes they just want to vent. They just kind of want a shoulder to cry on, and I have no problem being that for people. I wish that I had that when I was in that space. I didn't know anybody in my personal life who had gone through a disrupted placement at the time, and I felt very, very alone in it. It felt very, very lonely, but it's a lot more common than I think that people realize. And so you're not alone if you're going through it. Maybe if you've recently experienced it, you can ask your agency if there are other waiting families who have gone through it, who would maybe be interested in kind of talking with you and forming a little group, and so that you don't feel so alone and you have somebody else who's gone through it to kind of bounce those feelings and those thoughts off of. After our disrupted placement, we were a little bit weary about what our next move was going to be. We were nervous that it was going to happen to us again. We weren't sure financially we could handle it happening to us again. Emotionally, we weren't sure. And it happened right before the holidays. It was a great time of year. It was really kind of us just having to like pivot and go like, okay, change of plans. This holiday season is not going to look at all like what we thought it was going to look like. We just have to take our time to process it, and we did. We took, you know, like a week off of work, and we just took that week to just kind of cry and lean on each other and feel what we needed to feel. And then after that week was over, it was like, okay, we have to brush ourselves off, and we have to like get back to it. We have to get back to life. We have to do the things that we love. We have to distract ourselves. And we just have to try to be positive about this and move forward, because as much as it hurts, it's not the end of the world. And it wasn't the end of our journey. We weren't gonna let it break us. Whether we decided to continue with adoption or not, we were gonna grow our family. We were gonna figure it out. That was not going to stop us, and it shouldn't stop you. Take the time that you need to take, feel the things that you need to feel, sit with those emotions, lean on your partner, lean on a family member, lean on whoever it is that you need to for the support to get through it. There was something that really helped me move forward after our disrupted placement, and I want to share that with you. But I do want to say that depending on where you are in your healing, you might not be ready to receive this yet, and so again, take your time, come back to this message. But as cliche as it sounds, what's meant to be will be, and what's not won't. And ultimately, failed matches and disrupted placements, while they can be devastating for the prospective adoptive parents or family, you have to understand that it is a positive thing. When a failed match or disrupted placement happens, it means that an expectant parent is making a decision to change their mind. An adoption match is really just a plan. Plans can change, they can be terminated, anything can happen really. And you want an expectant parent to be empowered, to know what their options are, to know what decisions they're allowed to make for themselves, what their rights are, and you want that, because it gets really bad when expectant parents are coerced or manipulated into situations that they might not want to be in, or that they might have changed their mind about. It just gives me the ick. It's disgusting. It's wrong. It's unethical. And it happens more than you'd probably like to think in adoption. So we hope that adoption professionals are providing enough counseling for expectant parents to make those decisions early, whether they're going to parent or not, before involving a prospective family or a hopeful adoptive family. It doesn't always shake out like that. And sometimes you can have an expectant parent who's the most confident in their decision to place, and then once they deliver, everything changes, and you want them to be able to change their mind. They should be able to change their mind. So as much as it hurt for us to experience being in the delivery room and doing the first feeds and bonding with those kids over the 5 or 6 days that we were with them, as much as it hurt to not be their parents after that, it's okay, because it means that that mother was empowered enough and knew her rights and knew what she could do for herself and her children. And she made the decision. She made the call. So now those children don't ever have to grow up knowing what adoption is. They don't have to experience the complexities that come along with being an adoptee. They never need to deal with any of that. And that's a positive thing. That is a happy thing for those children. And so I'll take whatever pain it is that I need to endure to know that those kids are good. Those kids are with their biological families. They're gonna live happy lives. They're never gonna need to know about what it means to be an adoptee. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with being an adoptee or that adoption inherently is wrong. It's just complex. There's just a lot of emotions that go along with it, and I'm not gonna be naive and say that it's only this happy thing, because it's not. It's not for everyone. And I won't blanket it and make it sound like it is. And I hope that my children's experiences with being adoptees are positive. It's not my place to tell them how they're supposed to feel about it. And if a child doesn't have to go through it, then that's a good thing. Adoption is all about the child. It's all about the child and their needs and what's best for them. And it's not about me. And all in all, even though going through the disrupted placement was hard, there's nothing that I would change about the decisions that we made in that time period. I wouldn't go back and erase it. I don't wish that it never happened, because the experience taught us something. It taught us a lot of things, actually. And it really taught me how to be selfless in the process of being a prospective adoptive parent. And when we were matched with our son, and you know, we were kind of talking about what was going to happen when he was born. Were we going to go to the hospital and do that whole thing again, where we stayed with him and cared for him and bonded with him before terminations were signed, or were we going to wait? Were we going to wait the 72 hours until the parental terminations were signed and the child was placed with us before we ultimately met him? That was never even a thought in my mind. I was like, no, his birth mother wants us there. If the hospital allows us to be there, we're absolutely going to be there. I am grateful that things worked out the way that they did. I can confidently tell my children that their birth parents wanted them to be raised by us. It would destroy my heart to be raising a child whose biological parents maybe second thought it, or maybe didn't necessarily want to in the very end of things, but didn't feel like they could have changed their minds. And so they signed the papers anyway because they didn't know. Like, that would break my heart. I don't want to raise a child whose biological family doesn't want them to be with me. I feel very, very strongly about that. And so if it was meant to be, then it would be. And again, I know that's super cliche, but it's the only thing I could think of in these situations that makes sense. So take your time, go through the motions and the emotions of healing from your disrupted placement. Like I said, there's going to be a variety of things that you feel and that you experience while you're going through all of that. And just take your time to sit with it. You might learn things about yourself in the process that maybe you didn't necessarily think before. And they're going to help you as you move forward. Everything is a lesson. Everything is a lesson. And remember that silver lining, that it's really all about the child. You adopting is because you wanted to give a good home to a child. But if that child can already have a good home with their biological family, then you're not needed here. And there's another situation that is waiting for you in the future. If you're going through it right now, I wish you healing. I wish you love. If you ever want to talk, if you ever want to vent, if you ever want advice or anything, my DMs are always open. If you guys like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. It really helps me reach more people. You can leave me any questions or comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos from me in the future. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Vlogmas is coming up, so that's exciting. That's the best time of year, right? See you guys in the next one. Bye.